It started quietly on March 3rd, over the industrial sprawl of Yenikiv, a city tucked inside Donetsk. The morning began like many others. Smoke on the horizon, distant rumble of artillery, and a few residents filming the sky because, well, in Ukraine, that's become a national reflex. Then came the sound. A low roar like thunder with an attitude. Witnesses looked up just in time to see a Russian Su-34 fighter bomber slicing across the clouds, until it didn't. In seconds, that roar turned into a streak, the streak into a flame, and the flame into an unmistakable downward spiral. The jet's final moments were caught in shaky vertical videos that somehow managed to outlive everything, including the aircraft itself. Ukrainian media quickly claimed the Su-34 had been downed by air defense fire, while Russian sources insisted it had suffered technical issues. A convenient phrase, really. It covers everything from a missile strike. Then came May, and with it, an aerial mystery that had both nations' telegram channels foaming like a cappuccino. May 13, 2023, 11 a.m., Bryansk region, just across the border from Ukraine. Russian social media suddenly flooded with videos showing not one, not two, but several aircraft and helicopters falling from the sky. The cast list was impressive: a Su-34, a Su-35, and at least two Mi-8 helicopters. Each went down within minutes of each other, all in roughly the same area. Reuters later verified several of the videos, showing a fireball blooming mid-air and debris spiraling toward farmland below. It looked like someone had hit delete on a squadron. But who, or what, had done the deleting? Ukraine's Air Force wasted no time hinting at an answer. The word Patriot began making rounds faster than a meme. Patriot, the Western-supplied missile system so hyped that even its radar dish could probably get its own Netflix series. According to Kiev, this was the system's grand debut, and it had apparently scored a perfect kill streak. Western analysts jumped in, trying to trace missile trajectories and blast patterns from grainy TikTok footage. A few pointed out that the spacing of the crashes suggested a coordinated ambush, that perhaps a newly deployed Patriot battery, somewhere near Chernihiv or Sumy, had picked up the Russian formation as they entered their usual bomb-run corridor and decided to make history. Russian officials, meanwhile, were less enthusiastic about that version. The Defense Ministry's statement was as dry as burnt toast. An aviation incident occurred in the Bryansk region. No mention of Patriot missiles, no mention of Ukraine, just incident. To outsiders, it sounded like they'd misplaced a couple of jets, the way one might misplace car keys. Unofficial Russian channels floated the friendly fire theory that perhaps their own air defenses, in a tragic moment of overzealous patriotism, lowercase p, had taken out the aircraft. Others blamed mechanical failure, cosmic rays, or gremlins. Anything but a Ukrainian system hitting targets 50 kilometers inside Russian airspace. Still, the circumstantial evidence piled up like wreckage. Satellite imagery showed the impact sites. Locals uploaded photos of twisted metal marked with unmistakable Su-34 tailcodes. And Ukrainian memes flooded the internet. Two burning jets labeled "before and after meeting democracy." By nightfall, one thing was clear. Something extraordinary had happened in Bryansk that day. Whether it was a precision Patriot strike or a spectacular case of self-inflicted misfortune, Russia had just lost a small Air Force's worth of aircraft in a single afternoon. Reuters, in its trademark caution, noted that it could not independently verify the cause of the downings, but the footage and timeline were undeniable. Multiple Russian aircraft destroyed almost simultaneously under mysterious circumstances. Reuters, May 13, 2023. For Ukraine, the event became a symbol, proof that the Patriot wasn't just a Western showpiece, but a real game-changer. For Russia, it became an awkward silence filled with smoke trails. And for everyone else watching from afar, it was a reminder that in modern warfare, truth often crashes harder than any jet. Because in an age where every explosion is filmed, replayed, and debated frame by frame, no one can ever be completely sure what really happened. But they'll argue about it anyway. The word Patriot has always sounded friendly, like a 4th of July parade with hot dogs and brass bands. But in Eastern Europe, it's become the kind of word that makes pilots check their mirrors twice. When Ukraine unveiled its newly acquired MIM-104 Patriot system, the skies above the front line developed a new kind of tension, the quiet, invisible kind that hums at Mach 5. Let's get one thing straight. The Patriot is not just a missile launcher. It's an entire air defense ecosystem. Radar, command center, launcher trucks, generator units, and probably one stressed-out crew that hasn't slept in 48 hours. Picture it like a high-tech orchestra. The radar plays the strings, the command unit conducts, and the missiles do percussion, very loud percussion. Developed by the U.S. and first fielded in the 1980s, the Patriot started life as a Cold War teenager, designed to smack down aircraft and later taught to intercept ballistic missiles. Over time, it evolved into a family of overachievers, the PAC-2 and the PAC-3. Think of them as siblings, one old-school heavy hitter, one modern minimalist. The PAC-2, the veteran, carries an interceptor that weighs roughly 900 kilograms, the kind of mass that could ruin anyone's day. It doesn't hit the target directly. It gets close and then detonates, shredding the target with a blast of metal fragments, a flying confetti cannon of doom. Then there's the PAC-3, the younger, sleeker one, about one-third the weight, with smaller interceptors that don't explode near the target. They simply slam into it. It's the touch-grass version of missile defense, only the grass happens to be a supersonic jet or ballistic warhead. Now, imagine what that looks like on radar. Somewhere deep in the control shelter, a circular sweep of green light flickers, showing dots that move too fast for comfort. The system's radar, the AN/MPQ-65, detects, tracks, and categorizes everything with clinical precision: friend, foe, or unidentified flying problem. Once a hostile track enters the engagement zone, the operator authorizes the shot, and then physics takes over. The missile launches vertically with a deafening cough of fire, arcs upward, and then pivots mid-air like it's suddenly remembered an appointment. Within seconds, it's a blur, screaming through the stratosphere, guided by radar and sheer national determination. When a Patriot does its job right, there's almost nothing to see, just a distant flash, a faint plume, and a very confused pilot, if he's still around to be confused. On the radar, it looks like a digital vanishing act. One blip, then nothing. So when those Russian Su-34 and Su-35 jets started dropping from the sky in May 2023, observers didn't need a PhD to suspect what had happened. Ukraine had just received its first Patriot batteries from the United States and Germany weeks earlier. The timing was almost too cinematic. Analysts from Missile Threat, CSIS, pointed out that the Patriot's engagement range and radar coverage could, in theory, reach across parts of Russia if positioned strategically in northern Ukraine. Add that to the sudden cluster of mid-air explosions in the Bryansk region, and you can see why everyone's eyebrows collectively hit orbit. Even the patterns of the crashes, multiple aircraft, close in time and location, fit the Patriot's calling card: a coordinated, high-altitude ambush, not random accidents. Ukrainian officials, with an understandable hint of pride, praised their modern Western air defense. They didn't name the system outright, but they didn't have to. The Patriot doesn't need introductions. It announces itself with a flash and a crater. Of course, Russia denied everything because acknowledging that your $50 million jets were outsmarted by a NATO-trained crew and a 910-kilogram missile isn't great for morale. Their official explanation: mechanical malfunction, which, in Kremlin speak, roughly translates to, "We prefer not to talk about it." But whether the Patriots fired those particular shots or not, the message was already in the air. Literally, the Patriot had arrived, and every Russian pilot within 150 kilometers knew it. In war, some weapons make noise. Others change the entire soundscape. The Patriot does both, loudly, elegantly, and with just enough American flair to make even gravity look patriotic. The aftermath of the Bryansk spectacle was less of a news event and more of an international guessing game, part CSEI, dogfight, part Twitter Olympics. The only certainty was that several Russian aircraft had fallen spectacularly, and nobody agreed on who to thank or blame for that sudden display of gravity-assisted performance art. First out of the gate were the Ukrainians, and honestly, who could blame them? When two of your biggest enemy's aircraft spontaneously explode in the sky, you don't wait for peer review. The Ukrainian Air Force hinted, with all the subtlety of a fireworks show, that this was the moment their newly arrived Patriot system had finally spoken. In an interview quoted by the Kyiv Independent, Air Force spokesperson Yuri Ikhnat didn't outright say, "Yes, that was us with our shiny new Patriot battery," but his grin practically did. He praised Ukraine's modern Western air defenses and spoke of unprecedented effectiveness. To Ukrainian audiences, that sounded like a diplomatic way of saying, "We just turned a $100 million formation into confetti." The Forbes Defense column followed with its own analysis, connecting the dots between the Patriot's debut and the May 13th incident. The timing, they argued, was too perfect. Patriots had only been deployed a few weeks earlier, with American and German training teams helping Ukrainian operators integrate them into local defense grids. Then, bam! 3 Russian aircraft and 2 helicopters down within minutes, in an area previously considered relatively safe. Forbes described it as the most successful air defense ambush of the war so far, and speculated that Ukraine had cleverly positioned the battery near Chernihiv or Sumy, just far enough to poke into Russian airspace but not close enough to get smacked by return fire. According to the piece, it was a tactical masterstroke: bait the Russian strike group, then wipe it from the sky before it even crossed the border. Of course, this made the Russian Ministry of Defense sound like a magician, explaining why his dove exploded during the act. Their official statement was minimalist. An aviation incident occurred in the Bryansk region. That's it. No mention of Ukraine, no mention of Patriots, just an incident, as if the planes had all simultaneously forgotten how to fly. Unofficial Russian channels on Telegram filled the vacuum with increasingly wild theories. One claimed it was a friendly fire disaster, that Russian air defenses, jumpy after months of Ukrainian drone raids, had mistaken their own jets for incoming missiles. Another insisted it was a coordinated Ukrainian ambush using US-made missiles, which, ironically, was the version that made Russia look slightly better. At least that one implied a worthy opponent, not just self-inflicted chaos. But then came the videos, shaky, pixelated, and filmed vertically, because, of course, they were. Multiple clips showed an aircraft turning into a fireball midair, another trailing smoke before disappearing behind a hill, and 2 distinct explosions lighting up the landscape. Reuters reviewed several of them and confirmed they were genuine, showing real aircraft going down over Bryansk that day. What Reuters couldn't confirm, however, was the cause. That's where the story gets murky and a bit funny. You see, a flaming Su-34 looks the same whether it's hit by a Patriot missile or a friendly SAM operator who sneezed at the wrong time. There's no handy subtitle popping up in the footage saying, "Brought to you by Raytheon Technologies." The Kyiv Independent noted this ambiguity too. They reported Ukraine's claims, but added that independent verification remains limited, a polite journalistic way of saying, "We'd love to believe this, but we're not staking our careers on Telegram clips." Still, the circumstantial evidence was compelling. The spacing of the shootdowns, the simultaneity, and the distances involved all matched what a long-range surface-to-air system like the Patriot could achieve. No shoulder-launched Stinger or mid-range book could hit that deep, that fast, or that precisely. It was either a Patriot, or Russia's luck had decided to pack up and leave. On social media, Ukrainian humorists had a field day. Memes appeared showing a Patriot launcher wearing aviator sunglasses with captions like "Patriot, because gravity needs a little help." One popular edit used footage of the crashes with an added soundtrack of Kenny Loggins' Danger Zone. Subtlety has never been the internet's strong suit. Meanwhile, Russian commentators tried to downplay the event. One pro-Kremlin analyst claimed the aircraft were ambushed using deceptive radar signals, as if the jets had been hypnotized into self-destruction. Another insisted it was an electronic warfare test gone wrong, which translated from propagandese roughly means, "Don't ask questions." Western analysts weren't entirely convinced either way. Forbes noted that the Patriot's maximum range could theoretically reach the edge of the Bryansk region if Ukraine had deployed it in the northernmost possible position. That would have been a bold move, considering Russian counterstrikes are the kind of boldness that explodes. Still, the possibility remained on the table. Others pointed out that Ukraine had every reason to keep details vague. Revealing the exact location or success rate of their Patriot systems would be like giving Russia the coordinates for their next airstrike. So Kyiv's public silence wasn't denial, it was strategy. In the end, the debate split the internet into 3 camps. Camp 1, Patriots did it, case closed. Camp 2, Russia accidentally shot itself. Camp 3, nobody knows, but the videos are awesome. Reuters' final word on the matter? We cannot independently verify the cause of the downings, which in journalistic terms means, we saw the fireworks, but we're not picking sides in this barbecue. And so, the mystery of May 13th became part of the war's mythology, an event replayed in endless Twitter threads and YouTube explainers. Whether it was a Patriot strike or a spectacular coincidence, it served its purpose. Russian pilots began to fly lower, further, and less often. Ukrainian morale soared. The truth, as always, was up there, somewhere between the clouds, the missile trails, and the memes. And until someone digs up wreckage stamped "Made in America," the skies over Bryansk will remain the world's most expensive whodunit. By the time the smoke trails over Donetsk had faded, the headlines were already writing themselves. $100 million of Russian air power meets its match. It had everything a modern war story craves: drama, explosions, and a price tag large enough to make taxpayers choke on their cereal. 2 Su-34s, worth roughly $50 million apiece, allegedly turned into expensive confetti by Patriot missiles, costing a few million each. On paper, that's a bad business deal for Russia and a great meme for Ukraine. But war, as usual, doesn't balance its books so neatly. Tactically, if the Patriots really were behind the shootdowns, the implications were massive. The Su-34 wasn't some old museum piece. It was Russia's primary workhorse for precision strikes, a beast meant to operate comfortably behind front lines, dropping glide bombs and air-launched missiles from relative safety. Its strength was range and altitude, the illusion that it could fly close enough to strike, yet far enough to stay untouchable. But the moment those missiles went streaking skyward, that illusion cracked. The Patriot had extended Ukraine's defensive reach deep into contested airspace. Suddenly, even safe zones for Russian aircraft didn't feel so safe. For Ukrainian ground forces, the psychological ripple was instant. Every Patriot launch isn't just an interception, it's a promise that the sky might, for once, belong to them. And for Russian pilots, it's a chilling reminder that invisible radar locks can become billion-dollar fireballs in seconds. In a war defined by drones and attrition, a single successful, high-value intercept becomes a statement. The game board has changed. Politically, the impact was just as sharp. Kyiv used the alleged Patriot strikes to show Western backers that their aid wasn't just symbolic, it was reshaping the battlefield. The Patriot, once seen as too precious to risk, had become a frontline performer. Every successful intercept validated months of negotiations, logistics, and training. For Ukraine, it wasn't merely a defense system, it was a diplomatic weapon that screamed, "Your investment works." Moscow, of course, told a different story. To them, this was just another propaganda stunt. Technical malfunctions, exaggerated claims, Western smoke and mirrors. Yet even that denial spoke volumes, because in war, when you start explaining what didn't happen, you've already lost part of the narrative. Then came the internet accountants, eager to tally the value for money scorecard. One $5 million missile versus a $50 million jet. What a bargain. It made for great viral math, but it missed the real currency of warfare: fear, morale, and momentum. The loss of a Su-34 isn't just hardware. It's the loss of a trained crew, the blow to operational confidence, and the propaganda gift wrapped neatly for the enemy. In the end, whether or not the Patriots truly claimed those kills almost mattered less than what people believed. The story itself became a weapon, a legend of David launching $1 million stone at Goliath's $100 million helmet. And in this war of drones, disinformation, and data-driven destruction, maybe that's the real price tag that counts. Not what was shot down, but how loudly the world heard it fall. Here's where the cinematic lighting fades, and the narrator adjusts his glasses. Because as thrilling as Patriots versus Su-34s sounds, the fog of war doesn't come with a fact-check button. Reuters, ever the party pooper of sensational headlines, explicitly stated it could not independently verify Ukraine's claims. The videos floating around online, and the ones showing a distant flash and a plummeting fireball, do confirm that something exploded midair. But what exactly? That's where things get murky. Was it a Su-34, 2 Su-34s, a bird strike with a dramatic flare? Nobody can say with certainty. No credible open-source group has yet matched serial numbers from wreckage to aircraft lost that day, nor have missile fragments bearing Patriot identifiers been photographed or recovered publicly. Radar logs, The digital fingerprints of such an engagement remain locked away in military servers. And while eyewitnesses describe loud bangs and bright streaks, that's hardly conclusive science. Fireworks and fighter jets both tend to produce those. To add another layer of mystery, the Donetsk region is contested territory, meaning even journalists with helmets and flak jackets can't safely stroll in to collect debris samples. Every side, meanwhile, has its own cinematic edit of the truth. Kyiv's version has Patriots saving the day, Moscow's has gravity doing the dirty work. So for now, the story remains in limbo, a Schrodinger's dogfight where the Su-34s are both shot down and malfunctioned until proven otherwise. The only confirmed fact? Someone, somewhere, lost an awfully expensive piece of flying metal that morning. And in modern warfare, that's sometimes all it takes to win the news cycle. When the smoke clears and the hashtags fade, the battlefield always leaves one truth behind. Metal can be replaced, people can't. Those two Su-34s, if they truly fell, weren't just price tags with wings. They carried crews, each trained for years, now reduced to numbers on opposing spreadsheets of losses and kills. Somewhere, families on both sides are staring at silent phones, waiting for calls that won't come. For civilians below, it's another day of ducking the sky. Every boom, every contrail, every interception feels like a coin toss between survival and disaster. The modern battlefield isn't just about who hits what, it's about who can sleep through the night while the radar hums in the distance. Air defense systems like the Patriot have redrawn the rules of warfare. What used to be a battle of armies is now a duel of machines, one side launching, the other calculating, both praying the math works in their favor. The operators, tucked in their bunkers, might never see the pilots they shoot at, but they'll see the blip vanish from the screen. That moment, a small green dot blinking out, is the modern face of victory. Cold, precise, remote. And yet, for all the sophistication, one thing remains stubbornly human: confusion. The fog of war hasn't cleared, it's just gone digital. Missiles may now think for themselves, but truth still struggles to find a landing strip. In this age of high-tech cat and mouse, every explosion writes two stories, one of power and one of loss. And between them, the world squints at the sky, still unsure who really pulled the trigger.